What's up, Dragon Brood? I was at MagicCon Chicago last week and I went scouring the halls to find y'all in person to get your hottest takes from MagicCon Chicago about anything in Magic. And boy, y'all came with some crazy stuff. And we got a surprise visit from Chandra that we'll have at the end of the video. To get started, there were these two that had an opinion about Nadu.
Hey, my name's Deuce. I'm from Osaka, Japan, and Nadu actually wasn't that bad.
My name is Alex Garcia. I'm from West Chicago, outside of Chicago. My one hot take is, I don't think they needed to ban Nadu.
And just so you know, none of this was scripted. This was literally y'all's opinion, just off the cuff. But let me say that I disagree with this one because we saw all the problems Nadu was causing. Like, even in just watching the deck play out, some of the turns were long and boring, and it wasn't good to play against. It wasn't good for coverage. Like, there are a lot of reasons that Nadu had to be dealt with. But I get that some people were fans of it.
I'm Logan. I go by Seraph6 online, and I'm from Indiana. Bolus did nothing wrong.
You know, I'd be curious in the comments how many of y'all agree with this one and feel that, like, Bolus was in the right. Because honestly, I think Bolus did a lot of things. But it's kind of like what every big bad does, right? They don't feel they're doing anything wrong. They feel justified, which is why they do it. It's the whole Thanos thing.
So, name's Jeff Klippel from Wisconsin, and they need to ban Days and Legacy, otherwise Legacy's going to keep failing.
This was an interesting hot take because I haven't played Legacy in forever. I still have like a Maverick deck sitting on my shelf. I haven't even broken out in I don't know how many years. But I have heard from multiple people playing Legacy that Days is becoming a real problem, which is interesting because it's kind of been one of the defining cards of the format for quite a while now. So this may not be that much of a hot take from what I'm hearing. I had to ask a few folks, but there's a lot of people that actually agree with them.
All right, my name's Ben. I'm from Chicago. Magic's been in my life for 25 years. I love it, and it's fun for everyone.
You know, I actually appreciated this one because we get a lot of hot takes where people just want to get out and yell and have the vitriol about everything. But the reality is, it was cool to actually just see the people that were enjoying the game at the convention and wanted to say that, like, hey, sometimes Magic's just good. And I have to be honest, despite everything going on, there was a lot of people at the show and nobody was really complaining.
All right, I'm Zach Arnold. I'm from Fox River Grove, and my one MagicCon take is that this is the best Magic experience of all time.
The funny thing is, these two came up almost back to back, but not even in the same group, so they didn't even get to hear each other. So I guess a lot of people were enjoying the show, which is great.
Okay, my name is Josh, MTG Collector's Corner. My hot take is I love the Rat Fink Rude Riders art from Aether Drift.
I can't remember, but I think this was the only hot take we got related to Aether Drift, which I found very interesting considering how many people originally said they didn't like the motif. And the one we got was somebody actually being positive about it. And I have to say this, like, this is a good example of where, like, I don't really enjoy the Rat Fink style art. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but there are people like him that really enjoy it. And I guess enough that he felt he wanted to come, like, sing its praises. So, you know, a good example of, like, there's something for everyone and we're not all going to like the same things.
My name is John. I'm from Minnesota, and my current Magic hot take is that not enough people play Spore Frog.
Yeah, I have to admit, I wasn't expecting to get anything related to Spore Frog, so this was just a general surprise. I don't really have an opinion on Spore Frog one way or the other. I just think it's kind of a annoying card, but that's kind of it.
My name is Brandon. I'm from Philadelphia, and everybody should run more land destruction.
Well, that's definitely a hot take, but I disagree with this one. I think the idea of when you're playing Commander is it's a casual game, and if you're just making it where people don't get to play, like, that's just not going to be entertaining for the majority of people. Now, again, if you're playing higher level, especially now, bracket 4 or 5, hey, all bets are off. You're trying to win. Everybody's deck's trying to do the most efficient thing, go over the top. Then you should probably be playing more land destruction. If nothing else, though, I do think it's reasonable to play like a wasteland or something just to destroy some random non-basics that can get out of control. Even if you're not doing just like mass sweeping land destruction, I don't think there's anything wrong with playing a few pieces that are targeted.
My name is Roberto. I'm from Romeoville, Illinois, and my Magic hot take is Wizards should have a bracket 6 and just have no ban list.
You know what's funny? It seems like through every point in Magic history, there has always been people wanting no ban list something. It doesn't matter what the format is. I say if you want to do it, just go do it. But I don't think it ever needs to be an official thing. I think it's one of those things that, like, the experiences, at least when I've watched them, you know, especially when they've done some no ban list stuff online that I've been able to watch. The games just weren't that engaging, and you kind of saw all the cards you expected to see, and they all kind of did what you expected. Like, I guess, again, at the most competitive level, if you want to do it, go for it. But at a casual level, I would see that just being bad and burning things out very easy. But again, bracket 6, if you want to go ham and go nuts, like, hey, you and your play group, go have fun.
My name's Bryce. I'm from Minnesota. My Magic hot take is that every set does not need a collector pack.
You know, this one, I don't think it's that hot of a take. I think it's more a case of we've reached this weird spot with collector boosters where they're sort of just expected now, and it's guaranteed revenue for the company, so it's hard to take that off the books. The bigger issue for me is that we've made them almost too exclusive. I don't think they need to just be like as available as play boosters, but at the same time, maybe 50% more, 70% more than they do now, because these things are selling out on pre-order. Most people don't even have a chance to buy them. And that would be more money for the company. So if you're gonna have them, make more of them. Does every set need them? Probably not, especially if it's like a smaller set like we did with Assassin's Creed. That didn't really need collector's boosters or whatever. But for regular sets, kind of makes sense, especially for the Universes Beyond stuff.
I feel like this is where I should interrupt this video to tell you to go buy merch. There's like a link below, and we have cool shirts like this one, the Magic PowrDragn throwback logo, and other stuff, because we're trying to raise money so we can get an editor, so I don't have to edit all these things myself while we're doing fun things and y'all get more fun videos. So please, support the stuff.
All right, I'm Anthony Villavong. I'm from Madison, Wisconsin, and I think that removing creatures and countering spells gets way more hate than it should.
This is probably true. There are people who hate counters. There's people that hate removal. Honestly, I think as long as it's not the only thing in the deck, I don't personally have a problem with it. Like, it gets boring even as a content creator to play against decks that are just 48 removal spells or whatever, and then the game's finally over one way or the other. It just doesn't feel super interactive and interesting. So in that regard, I get it. But if somebody's just playing like, I don't know, like 6 counters and, I don't know, maybe 8 or 10 removal spells and just their deck's doing their thing, I don't have a problem with that. But there are people that if you ask them, those are going to be the things they really do hate.
I'm Jack Pabich. I'm from Wilmette, Illinois, and my hot take is Sol Ring is overplayed in Commando.
This has been an interesting one to think about because people gotta include Sol Ring just because it's available, right? And we have a bunch of cool versions of it, so if you're making a theme deck, it kind of makes sense to have one in there. But does every Commander deck need one? Not necessarily. I mean, if you have stuff that especially has a bunch of colored pips in their costs, and like having Sol Ring early even doesn't do all that much. But there are some things that just want to ramp up and have extra mana. But I think that could be said about a lot of cards in Commander. Like, example, Smothering Tide was in a bunch of decks, but doesn't necessarily need to be in there. Even early on, like years ago, I was just talking about this while we were at MagicCon, was that Sylvan Library used to be like the staple in green decks, and we slowly got away from it. So, is it overplayed? Probably. But is it overplayed to the point that it's a detriment? Not really. It's just a thing.
Script MTG from Atlanta, Georgia. Current Magic hot take is that all counter spells are fair Magic.
Speaking of, here's another one that's talking about counters. Would we say they're all fair Magic? Force of Will is barely fair, if we wanted to call it that. But again, as just a concept, it's fine. Again, only not good when there's literally like piles of them being played consecutively because the games get kind of boring. But otherwise, I could mostly agree with this one.
Hi, my name is Carter. I'm from Minneapolis, Minnesota. My hot take, sleeves are overrated.
Okay, what's funny is I'm only about halfway on this one. Sleeves themselves, I don't think are overrated. Like, the fact that we have a game where we have highly collectible and valuable things that we could actually shuffle up and play with and then sell later because they're still in great condition, fantastic. But I'm not a fan of double sleeving. I think for me, double sleeving just takes so long, and the result I've gotten is only marginally better than just having single sleeve stuff. You know, I've had somebody say, well, what if somebody has a drink on the table? I'm like, I'm not a Neanderthal. I at least tell people don't put your drink on the table. Or at least if it's a bottle, screw the cap on, or whatever the case is. But so far, I've not had any issues, and I've saved a ton of time. But I get it. For some people, it's a thing. But no way am I going to agree with sleeves are overrated. Plus, getting sleeves, like, there's so much customization between colors, styles, whatever, that we can all get what we want out of it. So, like, nah, this is one I definitely disagree with.
My name is Preston. I'm from Green Bay, and I think Thoracle's too easy.
For those of you who don't know, when somebody says Thoracle, they're referring to the card Thassa's Oracle, and usually in Commander, because at the upper levels, it's definitely a way to try to win the game, mill yourself down, play the card, you don't have any cards left, you win. It is kind of easy to do. Now, admittedly, if you're playing competitively, you do have to work to set it up so somebody just doesn't interrupt your sequence and doesn't counter the card and all that, but at the end of the day, it is a little too easy. So yeah, I do agree with this one.
Hey, I'm Michael. I'm originally from Portland, Oregon, and there's not enough Planes Chase cards. They need to make more.
All right, so this is one I actually had to go do a quick search to see how many there were. And I believe there were 100 plus, 103, 105, something like that, plus another 8 or 10 that are like the phenomenon cards or whatnot. That's kind of a lot. I mean, even if you want to shuffle these up, have them in the middle of your table, like having 100 random options, it's still pretty good because you're not going to see more than half in most of the games that you play. So I don't know if there aren't enough. Like, would it be fun if there were more? I agree with that, because if you like that format, having more options and more variety is always going to be fun because that's why you're playing it. Overall, I don't necessarily agree with the take, but I do get the sentiment that somebody would want more.
My name is Reese. I am from Chaska, Minnesota, and my Magic hot take is new players getting into Magic should not start with Commander.
You know, this is one of the things I actually talked a lot about over the last several years, is I've watched people and observed a lot of players learning with Commander, and I've seen so many get overwhelmed, and rightfully so. Like, you're having to not just learn the rules of the game and the interactions, but you're now trying to keep your focus on 4 different battlefields and the whatever, like 200 different keywords, maybe 300 now, that we have in Magic, so all the different abilities and things. But I think over the last year, we've seen more quality beginner products with good 2-player starter sets that step you through the games. We have Arena that has a really good tutorial on it. I think also having the stuff like the, what do we call the little 2-player packs or whatever, that you could just open up, shuffle up, and play against somebody. Those have been good. So I think having those other options has actually helped benefit and create an influx of new players over the last few years. Like, while Commander is the casual format of choice, I don't necessarily think it's the best place to start players. So I do agree with this, and I felt that way for a while.
I'm Nick Please, content creator from Portland. I'll say run more fetch lands in monocolored Commander decks.
This is actually a pretty relevant one. I see a lot of times where people won't do that, but you can always play the fetches just to thin your deck out, and I think that's actually reasonable. Especially if you're playing single color, you don't even need all that many actual lands anyway, because you're not trying to make sure you hit multiples of every color or anything like that. So, like, I know I do it in my elf deck that's mono green. I have all the fetches that go get green lands just to go get extra forests. Like, why not? So yeah, just one of those things. I do agree with this though, and I've often seen people that just don't do it.
My name is Nick. I am from Wisconsin, and my hot take is that universes beyond Avatar: The Last Airbender is going to be fantastic.
Hi, I'm John from Madison, Wisconsin, and my hot take is that Marvel is the best thing to happen to MTG ever.
You know, as much as some people don't like Universes Beyond, I have to say there were a lot of people there over the weekend, and I've seen this at previous shows and conventions, that started playing because they existed. And people are excited about the new stuff that was coming out. People are already talking about the previews that they showed over the weekend. So yeah, I don't even know if this is that much of a hot take. Like, some people obviously don't like Universes Beyond, some people love it, but so far it's actually been pretty good for bringing in new players and keeping people excited, who've actually become full-on players, not even just playing because of the one property.
Hi everybody, my name is Ruben, aka Mox Ruby on all of the internet things. I'm from Los Angeles, California, and I make Magic and D&D stuff. My hot take is, we've gone back to a bunch of planes. We need to go back to Olgrotha.
Now, for those of you who don't know, Olgrotha was like the setting for Homelands, and Homelands might honestly be older than half of you watching this video, which is crazy. But it didn't go over great. A lot of the cards were not very good in that set. There was a couple of memorable bangers, but most of it was not very, I wouldn't even say bangers, a couple memorable cards. And honestly, do we need to go back? I don't know if we need to, but after we got the redemption story really for Kamigawa, I'm not opposed to them at least giving it a shot and trying it. So maybe that's something we could look at in the future, especially if we want to do something with like the Singer family of vampires and stuff like that. That would at least give us an excuse to do it somewhere down the road. I'm sure that's on the dartboard somewhere in R&D. So, I don't totally disagree with this. Like, there's a few sets that we should at least go back and try and maybe make them a little better, because just the way we handle everything for R&D and such is just so much better now.
My name's Alex. I'm from Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Magic is a great game for learning who you are and what you want to be.
I do think there's some truth to this statement. Very much in the way of like playing sports or joining a club or picking up some hobby. Like you need some way to explore, get human interactions, traveling to events and just being part of different things. You get a lot out of Magic if you give yourself the opportunity to. I think it's very easy to kind of stay in our little bubble and this is the way the game should be seen and done and my way is the right way. But I think when you get out and really talk to people and meet people and go to your local shop regularly and be part of a community, like there's a lot to not just learn about the game, but also about yourself. So this was kind of an interesting hot take I didn't expect somebody to have over the weekend. And those are almost all of our hot takes, but I did promise y'all one more. And Chandra did stop by to say hello. See, we're hanging out with Chandra because she's everywhere.
I am. I'm not everywhere. I had to park my motorcycle in the front. They wouldn't let me drive it in.
This place is huge. You could have driven a
That's what I was saying. I was like, you can drive a motorcycle through this for sure. And I am a pretty good driver.
You drink a lot, though.
I'm not at the same time.
Fair.
Bad. Don't do that.